Hi, I'm Angie Hicks, co-founder of Angie. When you use Angie for your home projects, you know all your jobs will be done well. Roof repair? Done well. Kitchen sink install? Done well. Deck upgrades? Done well. Electrical upgrade? Done well. Angie's been connecting homeowners with skilled pros for nearly 30 years, so we know the difference between done and done well. Hire high-quality, certified pros at Angie.com.
Every morning I would come in, he would be on my computer at my desk, and he would leave things up on my computer like dating sites like eHarmony and pictures of different jokes and stuff that he would look at. And I asked him several times.
What do you mean jokes?
They were X-rated jokes, and I told him I didn't like it. I felt uncomfortable with it.
This is the plaintiff, Corinne Thompson. She says she worked for the defendant at his insurance company, and the louse is stiffing her on her wages. That's right, he owes her for hours she worked and also owes her commission on insurance policies she sold. When she asked him for her money, he became verbally abusive, sexually harassed her in the office, and she's not going to take that kind of behavior from anyone, and is owed every penny of the $5,000 she's suing for. This is the defendant, Walter Case. He says he paid the plaintiff every penny he owes her and never ever harassed her in any way. In fact, she worked for him for 2 years and must have been very happy because while she worked there, she gained 25 pounds. Bottom line, the judge will see this lawsuit for what it is, a shakedown and nothing more. He's accused of being a bad boss. The defendant has filed a countersuit for $545.04 for overpayment.
All parties, please raise your right hand.
What you are about to witness is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in civil court. Both parties have agreed to drop their claims and have their cases settled here before Judge Marilyn Millian in our forum, the People's Court.
Be seated. Come to order, please. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome,
Corinne Thompson, you are suing P&C Insurance Group, and Walter Case, you are the owner?
Correct.
Okay. For $5,000 in unpaid commissions, wages, vacation and sick leave, and sexual harassment. You are counterclaiming against her $545.04 that you say you overpaid her. All right, let me hear from you first.
Well, I started working for the defendant. Back in August of 2013. I started working part-time, $13 an hour. At that time, I was only working 15 hours a week. And over the past 2 years, my hours have increased, and so has my pay. Back in February of last year, I took a spill out in front of the building. Wait,
before you get to the spill, at the time you started working, you did not have a license,
correct? I did not have a license.
What kind of license are we talking about?
Property and casualty insurance license.
And what kind of license do you need in order to sell that?
A property and casualty license.
And how many, do you take a class and do you pass a test?
You do have to go to a class, and you do have to pass the state insurance.
You eventually got your license.
I eventually got my license.
What did your job become after that?
I was an agent at that point. I was renewing policies. I was selling policies. I was talking to customers because I had to be licensed in order to work there, because you can't talk to a client about anything concerning insurance without being licensed. You can't discuss, according to the rules, the state insurance rules, you can't discuss anything regarding their policy with them unless you're a licensed insurance agent.
What was your job at that point versus your job after that?
My job was just basically doing filing and getting the office more or less set up. I had taken on more responsibility and sold policies, and he refused to pay me for those policies.
All right, now back up. What put you under the impression that you're supposed to be paid commission? You're referring to commissions on those policies.
Yes.
How much commission do you say you were supposed to make on each policy?
10%.
And are these policies that you brought in that were brand new clients?
Some were, yes.
All right, and according to you, what was the agreement on the commission? How much?
10%.
10% of whatever new you sold?
Yes.
And according to you, you're entitled to 10 of them during the course of the couple of years that you worked there that he didn't pay. Now, what proof do you have that you're entitled to commissions?
The first policy that I did sell, he did pay me a commission, but then after that, he wouldn't pay me anything.
What reasons would he give for not paying you a commission?
He every time I would ask him for my commission, he would just say, "We'll talk about it."
Well, I meant for 2 years. Why didn't you just stop working for him?
I was in a predicament, a personal predicament. I was going through a divorce, and this was the first job that I had had after a lengthy illness, and I needed this to get started.
Okay.
So
were other people who were employed as you were employed, were there other people doing your same job?
I was, at that point, I was the only one there. His daughter had worked there before, but she left.
How about was his daughter getting commissions?
At that time, I don't know what her circumstances.
How about any other employees that were there?
It was just him and myself.
The whole time, the whole rest of the time, besides when the daughter was there, it was just you two?
Well, towards the end, I'd say the last 4 weeks that I had been there, he had hired someone else part-time.
Was that person wasn't getting commissions?
No.
Okay. Mr. Case, what is going on? According to her, you had agreements. You promised her the sky and the moon, and you gave her a raw deal.
Well, the first thing is, of course, I didn't promise her commissions. She wasn't an agent. She never had a license to the companies that we have in our office.
What does that mean?
That means you can't write a policy and sign your name to it if you're not licensed with them.
Okay, I'm sorry. She just talked about how she got a license. Is there a different license that she got?
Yes, you get licensed by the individual companies that you're selling for.
Okay.
In other words, the Hartford Insurance, you have to be their agent, not just an agent.
Okay. Are you licensed?
Yes, with all.
Are you the only one in your employ that's licensed?
The new young lady that's working there has a license the same as she had gotten. But
Is she
she's
getting
not,
commissions?
No.
Did you ever agree with her to pay her a commission?
Well, here's how it all went. A person from the outside, if you bring them in, I'll give you a fee. You can't get
We give
commission.
who a fee?
Corrine.
What kind of fee?
A fee just for bringing in a new client.
But you're not calling it a commission?
I'm not calling it a commission. She wasn't a licensed agent.
Okay. What's the fee that you agreed to pay for new clients that she brought in?
Usually like $25.
Well, barely worth scouring the nation to find clients for you.
But when she was hired, she was not hired as an agent. She was hired as a customer service representative.
Now, according to you, you were also suing for $1,500 for sexual harassment and hostile work environment. Tell me about that.
Every time I would try to speak to the defendant, he would start swearing at me and yelling at me, telling me what a bad employee I was, that I was always late, that...
How was that sexual harassment?
Well, no, but there were times where he would go on my computer. Every morning I would come in, he would be on my computer at my desk, and he would leave things up on my computer like dating sites like eHarmony and pictures of different jokes and stuff that he would look at, and they would be on my computer. And I asked him several times.
What do you mean jokes?
He had a friend that would send him jokes, and they were X-rated jokes. And I told him I didn't like it. I felt uncomfortable with it.
How are you reading what the friend is sending him, though?
Because it was a company email.
All right, and then you would see nasty jokes that his friend, one friend or many friends?
One friend.
Would send him?
Yes, and I...
What kind of nasty jokes?
I have pictures.
Were there pictures involved too?
Yes.
Let me see
if you
the
want to
pictures.
see the pictures, I do have pictures.
What propelled you to print them out?
Because after I had asked him not to I told him that I didn't like them, that I felt uncomfortable with them. He said, well, if you know what they are, don't look at them. And I said, they shouldn't be sent to a company computer.
Well, of course not. Who's the lady who's with you?
My daughter.
That's fabulous. My boyfriend's wife hates me. What are these things doing, going to a work computer? I mean,
I went to the work computer every morning to review emails, and then I left.
no, why don't you just tell your friend to stop it? I mean, this is not that hard. You have a personal email. Have them send it to your personal email.
I don't even remember truly who.
Because that's what you're supposed to do if there's other people who are exposed to it, just as a matter of decency.
I think we
and
did.
it's unwise, because then you find yourself here, which cannot be a shining moment in front of your daughter.
That's all true.
Yeah, well, maybe he shouldn't send it to a corporation email, period.
We did end that.
Did you ever respond to the fellow?
I did, and I wrote him back, and I said, please, I sent him a very nice, polite letter. This is a company email. Please do not send these anymore. I deleted it off the computer. I told Mr. Case about it, and he got mad at me, and that's when he told me, if you know what they are, don't open them.
When did you quit?
I quit, it was August 21st.
So you printed this stuff out in February and January?
Yes.
And then what'd you do with it? You just kept it for safekeeping for the future?
I kept it because he wouldn't leave me alone. He started giving me a hard time.
How was he giving you a hard time?
Every time I would go to leave, he would ask me, let me have your hand. He would try to grab me. There were times...
You have to be more specific.
He would come
Every
over to
single
my
day,
desk.
when you would try to leave, he would hold your hand?
He would come over to my desk and reach out for my hand, and I would tell him, I don't like to be touched. And he would try to, well, just give me your hand. I'm not going to bite you.
Give me your hand for what reason?
He wanted to just hold my hand.
Okay.
There was another time where I had to fax something, and the fax machine was behind his desk. And he said, here, I have a paper for you. And I said, leave it on your desk. I will get it when I'm done faxing. And I turned around, and it was on the floor.
Okay.
He wanted me to bend over in front of him to get it up off the floor.
Did you do that?
I turned around so that I wouldn't bend down in front of him.
Why don't you tell him to pick it up?
At that point, I was just disgusted.
Tell me, I need to know everything that you want to put in front of me regarding sexual harassment.
He had been warned before about, off-colored things that he would say to people.
Like what?
I walked in the office one day and I had a top on. It was a V-neck top, and it was a little tight-fitting because I had been on medication. I gained 25 pounds on this medication. And he looked at me and he said, whoa, that's a nice top. It just made me feel uncomfortable.
Okay.
There was another time when his granddaughter was in the office, and he had stepped out to go use the restroom, and she was playing on his iPad or whatever he had in the office, and she said, oh, Corrine, Grandpa's got pictures of you on his iPad. And I said, what? And she came over and she showed me. I was working at my desk, and he was sitting there taking pictures of me, and I didn't know he did that. That made me feel uncomfortable. So
Were you taking pictures of her without her knowing? That's really creepy.
I got this new iPad, and I just took pictures of not only her, but the office, the kid, everything. She was sitting at her desk.
Do you have the pictures?
No.
Were they in any way creepy, other than the fact that they exist?
It just made me feel uncomfortable.
Okay. Go on.
One time we were out in the hallway, and he wanted to speak to me about work, and he started with me pointing his finger at me saying, this has got to stop. And I looked at him and I said, what are you talking about? He said, this coming in late every day? And I said, we had an agreement. When I fell and I hurt my hand.
Okay, you fell and hurt your hand in front of the establishment, correct? On ice.
Yeah.
And you had to have surgery?
I had four surgeries.
Okay.
But I had to go to physical therapy every day. And we had an agreement. I would go at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it would take me about an hour and a half. And I had to be to work at 9. So we had an agreement that I would do my physical therapy in the morning. I would come in later in the morning, like around 9:30, 10 o'clock, whenever I would get there, and then I would make up the time later in the day.
And then what happened?
It wasn't convenient for him. He didn't want me there. When I got there, he said I was not allowed to take any more time off from work.
Well, somebody yelling at you that you're late is not sexual harassment. It has nothing to do with you being, having a certain gender. So that's an employer yelling at you because they've changed their mind on whether you can come late. It may be, jerky, but it's not actionable as harassment. So tell me about anything else that you want to tell me about actual harassment, sexual harassment.
Well, that's it as far as the sexual harassment goes. Just being made.
According to her, you're making off-color jokes. You're getting, pictures on an email that she reads of very explicit nature. Would you like to see these? Oh no, I think you would. I think you would. Go ahead. And if you don't know whether they're okay to receive or not, why don't you have your daughter standing next to you while you're looking at them? Because if that makes you cringe, then that's how you should feel when an employee's looking at them too.
Hi, I'm Angie Hicks, co-founder of Angie. And one thing I've learned is that you buy a house, but you make it a home. Because with every fix, update, and renovation, it becomes a little more your own. So you need all your jobs done well. For nearly 30 years, Angie has helped millions of homeowners hire skilled pros for the projects that matter. From plumbing to electrical, roof repair to deck upgrades. So leave it to the pros who will get your jobs done well. Hire high-quality certified pros at Angie.com.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Harvey Levin here. So the question, she doesn't complain for 2 years about commissions. Now she says she's owed all these commissions. You buying it?
I'm not buying it.
Because? Okay, well, you can do because
there's no way she waited 2 years. I would have been out of there in a month if no one paid me.
I mean, you would think so, right?
I believe so. I think she's jaded.
Jaded?
Jaded.
That's not the word I was going for. Jaded? Really jaded?
Absolutely.
I think she's full of it. Going inside the courtroom.
That's a favorite.
I don't believe I ever saw that.
She also says that you would physically touch her. Would you like to respond to that? You would grab her hand or whatever she would.
When she did something good, I said, put my hand out, good job. I never, ever went over the borderline.
Well, I don't know, because in your answer to the complaint, you actually used the phrase, I did watch her rear end grow.
That's because she wore very tight clothes, and it was.
Yeah, but why would
we
you
were
think
very
it would be
close.
Can I just ask you a question? Why would you think that it would be appropriate to comment on the growth of a woman's rear end who is your employee? Do you not think that perhaps you are crossing, if not a civility line, a hostile work environment line by coming in here, and this is something the judge is going to read, and twice in your answer to the complaint, you make jokes about the growth of her rear end. On what planet is that appropriate?
None that I know of.
Well, then why did you?
It just was very noticeable.
Do you even understand how inappropriate stuff like this is?
Pretty much I do.
Why? Because I'm yelling at you now? No. And because now the world knows? Or because you have an internal clock that tells you so?
I should know better. Corinne and I worked together for quite a while, and in spite of all of that, she wore, I would have to say, provocative clothes to work.
It's her own fault, right? Because she wore clothing that compelled you to say that her rear end grew and to say, you look fine in that, or whatever else you said. It's her fault. The victim's asking for it, right?
No, pretty much when I commented, I said, that's a nice outfit you have on. You look nice today. I never crossed any lines about how good, bad, or indifferent, but I think there is also.
The kind of guy who feels comfortable saying, I watched their rear end grow, is not the kind of guy I believe on that kind of stuff. She's also suing for lost wages for 2 weeks. That's after you quit, you gave him 2 weeks' notice, and then he said, you go today. Why would you be entitled to pay for those 2 weeks? I mean, an employer can say that. You're an at-will employee. He can say to you, you know what, you're gone now. I don't trust you. You're going to steal my clients. You need to go now. He can absolutely say that. You can't sue for those 2 weeks. You have a counterclaim against her for $545.04 for overpayment. What is that?
That is for a paycheck that I thought that we owed her, but not true. She called me on the phone and said, you owe me, screaming and yelling, you owe me this, you owe me that, and you owe me a week's pay that they held back.
This was after she quit?
Yes. She told me, which I didn't check on at the moment, I just sent the check. I had them send the check. But when we sent the court all the paperwork that they never withheld a check.
Were you, did he send you, did you tell him they withheld a check?
They always paid us a week. When we worked a week, we got paid the week after.
Right.
Not
okay.
true.
And did you tell him I'm owed a week that I didn't get paid?
Yes.
So when you called him, you told him I didn't get paid for the week that ends on the 21st of August?
Correct.
And had you been?
No.
And were you later?
I was, but not until September.
Okay, so you did get an extra check.
It's not an extra check. It's a check that pays me up until the 21st, which is the day I left from the
Do you
payroll
have a
company.
canceled check that you wrote her?
They direct deposited.
Okay. So do you have proof that there was an extra one?
All of her checks. And she didn't get paid a week behind, ever. She went to work Monday. I handed her a check Friday. Every week for every week that she worked, she got paid. And all of that is...
Do you have her first paycheck information?
I have...
Is it in there?
I don't know if the first...
Well, then how will you ever show me that you paid her on the Fridays if you don't have absolutely all of it to show it to me? Otherwise, how are you going to prove your case? Just like I tell her she needs evidence, you need evidence too, my friend. Let me explain to you a couple of things. In order to receive almost $1,000 in unpaid commissions, you have to prove to me that you were entitled to commissions. It's your word against his. You have absolutely nothing in writing. And according to him, you can't even get a commission. I believe you when you say that he says that we'll talk about it. Yeah, because he's you keep working and then he just doesn't pony up. But if you want to prove to me that there's 10 of those he didn't pay you, okay, how are you going to prove that to me?
Well, I have mine. I have my policy that I wrote for myself.
How much were you supposed to get paid for the one you wrote for yourself? Commission or finder's fee?
It should have been at least $123.
When was yours written?
It was 8/5/2014.
When did you quit?
I quit on 8/21/2015.
Okay, here's the thing, Ms. Thompson. You don't act like somebody who is entitled to all these things for all of these years by when you continue to work there and don't say boo about stuff. And you can tell me till you're blue in the face that you said boo all the time, but you continue to report for work as though, you're getting exactly what you bargained for. You work, you get paid. You work, you get paid. You just have failed to be able to prove to me that you're entitled to $5,000 in the circumstances that you're laying out in front of me. And you have failed to prove to me an overpayment. I'll tell you the one thing I have learned, by listening to this. I don't know who you think you are. You need to take a heavy dose of self-reflection on whether, certainly at this stage of the game, you have the right to be this impolite and sexist to the people around you, because you're going to find yourself in a problem. You don't happen to find yourself in a problem in this one in front of me, but you're going to find yourself in a problem, okay? And it's not funny, and I kind of expect your generation to check on that generation, okay? On your lawsuit against him, 0. On his lawsuit against you, 0. Good luck, folks.
Hold on right there, please. Okay, so the plaintiff is now out here in the hallway after this case. There were tears even, you were in tears at one point. How difficult was this for you?
It was very difficult. I couldn't leave. I had an injury. I was in a cast for most of the time that I worked there. I couldn't go to another job.
Did he know that?
Yes. I had 4 surgeries on my hand. Who's going to hire me without, a hand there?
You understand on the legal side that what his behavior was made you uncomfortable, maybe embarrassing, but it didn't rise to the legal standard of proving a sexual harassment?
I felt somebody who was touching you was sexual harassment, especially after you told them you didn't want them to touch you. I feel, especially when people make comments, you watch those films that tell you, this is sexual harassment. If people make you feel uncomfortable, that's sexual harassment.
Okay. All right, head right down this way. Okay, let's see what the defendant has to say. All right, 0 on your side. Also, what do you have to say in your own defense after?
Well, Corinne was a good person, okay? Unfortunately, she took advantage of me, which I never got to expound in the courtroom about being late 9 out of 10 days a week.
Did you know she was in kind of desperate straits there and
Yes, I
having
did.
trouble, and you may have
Listen,
taken advantage of that and pushed it a little bit?
taken advantage.
Knowing that she couldn't leave?
Knowing that she couldn't leave. I paid her for everything. Days off. She came to work late.
Excuse me one second.
All the time.
How humiliating or embarrassing has this been for you listening to this testimony about your dad?
It's been a little embarrassing.
A little?
Yeah, a little bit. I think this whole thing was nonsense. I don't think Corinne deserved anything more than what she got, and she probably got more than she deserved, so.
Okay, Harvey?
Okay, Kurt, here's the thing. Sexual harassment has to be either egregious or persistent. Otherwise, generally, it just doesn't happen. That will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.
This is the plaintiff, Stephen. He says he brought his boat to the defendant's boatyard to repair the engine, and the old salt of the sea ripped him off. That's right. When he tried to make a stink, he had his goons surround him, preventing him from taking some parts he's refusing to return. Bottom line, he's not going to be scammed, is exercising his legal rights today in this court, and is suing for the $5,000 he's most definitely owed. This is the defendant, Tim Hogan. He says he's been in the boat business for 23 years, doesn't rip people off, and did everything he was hired and paid to do for the plaintiff. The plaintiff has a bad attitude, is argumentative about every little thing. He doesn't owe him any money, and thinks the judge will sink his case as soon as she hears the facts. He's accused of being all wet.
All parties, please use your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff brought his boat to the defendant's repair shop, but says he got ripped off. The defendant says he did the job and did it well. It's the case of yo-ho-ho and a crock of you-know-what.
Thank you, Douglas. Stephen, you've asked us to refer to you only by your first name. You are suing Outboard Exchange, LLC, represented here by Tim Hogan. You're the managing partner for $5,000 that you say is owed to you as a result of faulty work he did on your boat motor. Tell me what happened.
Back in August, I had a problem with my boat, so I bring it somewhere to get it.
What kind of boat is it?
It's a little fishing boat.
What kind of boat is it?
19-foot Mako.
What year?
1969.
Okay. With what kind of engine in it?
It had a 140 Johnson motor on it.
Okay, which was how old?
It was 1986, I believe.
Okay, so go ahead.
So I bring it somewhere. I had a problem with it. It wasn't running right. They said it had a cracked water jacket. And they wouldn't, they said they couldn't fix it. So I called around a couple places, and I ended up calling Outboard Exchange. And he said that they can fix it. They can weld it, take it apart, weld it, and put it back together for $500. So I said, okay, no problem. So I bring my boat all the way up there. And then he said, oh, this boat is unsafe. I said, oh, okay, so what's the matter with the boat?
What's all the way up there? How far is it?
2-hour drive, 2.5 hours.
Why couldn't you find somebody locally?
Because everybody was so busy, so they didn't want to. Nobody wanted to work on the boat because it was an old engine
with a 30-year-old engine.
Yeah. So they want to sell you a new motor. So.
Of course, because it's 30 years old. Okay.
So, anyways, so
what's
he said
a new motor cost?
A new motor is between $8,000 and $10,000.
Really?
So if he could fix it for $5,000, I was happy.
Yeah, but go ahead.
So he said he could fix it. I brought the boat up there. He said that the transom was unsafe. I said, okay, so...
What's a transom?
It's the back of the boat where the motor mounts to the boat, the very back of the boat.
So it's the actual physical structure of the boat?
Yes.
And how was it unsafe?
It was about ready to fall off. I mean, it was warped. I see it
What would happen if you were out and about on the boat and the transom fell off?
The boat would sink.
The boat would sink because it was no longer powered, or the boat would sink because the boat would rip apart?
The boat would rip apart.
Okay. So he comes up and he shows it to you, and you say, this transom's, you know, too far gone because it's, almost as old as I am. Okay. 1969. All right. And what's he say?
Well, I said I wouldn't even let this boat leave unless you signed a waiver saying that you know it's unsafe. He also stated that his brother would repair it.
Would or wouldn't?
Would repair it after I was completed with it. I said, okay.
Oh, so what did you have him sign?
I had him sign the receipt that says the boat is unsafe.
Can I see what he signed?
Sure.
You didn't have a problem with that?
No, not at all.
Right. So, and how much was the job going to cost? $21.81.84?
Correct.
Okay. So you pay him the money and you sign the waiver. And then what happens to you?
So then I go in the back and I see my old power head, so I went to go grab that. His guys said, no, you can't take that. That stays with us. And I'm like, well, that's my parts. And he said, those are my parts. So I wanted them. They wouldn't let me take it, so it's okay. Then I walk around after I paid, and I walked around to the back. Then I see the boat. There's no wire harness hooked up. There's grease all over the boat, and it's just a disaster.
Why did you pay before seeing the boat?
Oh, I trusted him.
Okay. So you pay, then you go to get your own parts that you say are yours and not his, and what happens with that?
This is just part of our policy. We keep the old parts.
They're valuable? They have some value?
Not really, no.
Then why don't you just give it to the guy who's saying, I want
In
them?
hindsight, I probably should have.
Well, why did you say no that day, though?
He was being argumentative about everything, so.
But what had he been argumentative about? According to him, all he had done then was pay.
Mainly not hooking up the controls.
Well, that he didn't find out, according to him, until afterwards. The parts comes first. Is that not true?
That's not the way it
Why didn't you hook up the controls? Because a man came and he thought that you were going to have completed the job that he paid for and that you hadn't paid for. But as it turns out, as a safety precaution, apparently, you had not connected what?
The controls and a key switch that run the motor behind you. I did not take him at his word that he was going to go right away and fix the transom. I said, in order to fix the transom, you have to remove the motor. And you said you were going to build a stainless steel reinforcement. So I would have to reconnect the controls after it was repaired. And I said, if you like, after you repair it, I will hook up the controls for free. Just bring the boat back.
It's not for free. You already charge him for it. And is it true he's 2 hours away from you?
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't want to drive 4 extra hours, okay? Yeah. So, but if you're really fixing the transom, then wouldn't they have to disconnect things in order to? So isn't it better that you take care of the transom, or were you not really intending to take care?
No, I fixed the transom, but
Did you fix the transom before paying $250 to hook it up?
Yes. No. He hooked it up. Then I fixed the transom.
So how did you fix the transom with it hooked up?
You just pop the motor up and you put the I-beam across, and then put it right back down.
Prove to me that you paid $250 to hook up the wire harness. The part that he didn't do cost you $250. Okay. So now I would understand your lawsuit if you were coming to court and suing for that. But you're suing for a heck of a lot more than that. You're suing for $5,000. So tell me where your entitlement to more than the part he didn't do comes up when you signed a waiver.
Okay, so then we put the boat in the water, go for a ride, come back, and I had my little son with me. So I rev the engine. I see in the water like when gasoline hits the water, oil, it makes the thing. So I see a lot of that going on. I said, maybe I put too much oil in the gas mixture. So because it's two-stroke, you have to mix the oil together. So all right, nothing. I get back in the dock spot, rev the motor, and all of a sudden, I said, what the heck?
What does that mean? What you just said?
The spark plug shot out of the cylinder, and the hose broke to the water jacket and flooded the compartment. Thank God that happened, because the compartment had filled up with gasoline because he didn't put the proper hoses on, right.
What evidence do you have of the last thing you just said, that whatever happened on that boat happened as a result of his workmanship versus that it's, a 30-year-old motor?
I have a video of a mechanic working on the motor stating all this
Okay,
stuff.
let me see your video. Who is the mechanic?
His name is Marco.
Is he a friend of yours?
No. I have a phone number if you want to call them. The hose keeps popping off.
So meaning the rubber tubing had to be replaced with what?
He replaced the rubber. That's hose. That's the hose for the gas. And you can see all the dirt that he pulls out of the carburetor. So if you rebuild the carburetor, I don't think there would be that much dirt coming out of it.
Did you rebuild the carburetor?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, he almost blew up me and my son and I.
Did he almost blow up you and your son? Or did
Yes.
the motor just fail?
No, he almost.
Okay, what evidence do you have that he almost blew you and your son up?
Just from him speaking to the compartment was filling up with gasoline, the spark plug shot out of the head, and the hose broke at the same time.
What's the word he's saying? Rebars?
Rebuild the reeves, the reeve valves.
Revalves.
The little reeves.
Can you respond to what the guy's saying? Because the guy's kind of appalled. He says that this was a bad job on your part. He's saying, you know, that you clearly didn't replace things that should have been replaced, that in order to fix that right, you would have to take that apart, that it looks like it wasn't even taken apart, that the carburetor is filthy. So did you want to respond to the things he's saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Carburetors are only as good as the fuel that goes into them. I don't know the condition of his fuel in his boat. I don't know what's hooked up to it. Not only that.
Well, where would he get fuel to put in his boat?
Well, it's not the fuel.
That would be so faulty that it would.
It's never the fuel that you buy. It's
Okay.
unfortunately boats, of course, 40-year-old boats have contaminated fuel tanks.
Okay.
So you can rebuild the carburetors and you pump new fuel into the gas.
And it goes
that's contaminated.
through. Okay.
I don't know if that's what happened. If I had the opportunity to look at it, if we're negligence, I would have fixed it. I realize he's 2 hours away.
Okay, well, clearly, listen, the guy was out on the boat, and whether it was the first time or the 10th time, the guy was out on the boat and hoses popped off and things happen, bad things happen. So what is your response to that? Or you can't tell me because you didn't get to see the boat again?
I didn't get to see the boat, and I didn't get a receipt on Marco's repair because he did it off the books.
No, was there a receipt for Marco's repair?
No.
No.
Oh, how do I know you paid him $500? First you said $250, and now you wrote $500 when you got in here today. How do I know what you paid him? And if he ever even did anything? Can I ask you a question? Have you ever watched a People's Court?
I did.
You did. In preparation for today, you had never seen it in the 15 years that you have had an opportunity to see it. No problem. I don't hold that against anybody. But seriously, how are you going to come to court with none of the proof? Well, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say none of the proof because you've got Marco on video. But I don't know who Marco is. Like, I've got nothing in writing from Marco that would tell me I've been in this business X number of years. Like, do you have something on Marco?
I think I have something here from Marco.
What's that?
So would you, if you had $500,000, would you buy a boat?
No way.
Why not?
I'd charter it.
Oh, that's actually interesting, but a dream boat, something you always dreamed of.
I haven't dreamed of a boat, so there are other things I'd buy first.
I love that. Okay, going inside the courtroom.
I have been retained by Stephen to troubleshoot and repair the engine that was previously worked on. I have found the following faulty workmanship and mechanical problems. Bad cylinder head, spark plug blew out of the cylinder head, carburetors are leaking fuel from improperly installed fuel lines. Motor is not safe to run and getting progressively worse from fuel leaks and can catch on fire. All fuel lines are bad and need to be replaced with marine fuel lines. Carburetors were not rebuilt and need to be. Did you rebuild the carburetors?
Yes, we did.
Do you have any evidence to back up? Did you personally do it, or is somebody in your employ?
No, somebody employed by me, yeah.
Do you have any affidavits from the people who were supposed to have done the work?
I have a work order with all the notes on the back, yeah.
Can I see what you got?
Sure.
Old starter was not rebuilt. Bolts missing on engine block. Engine running on 3 cylinders. Bad water jacket hoses. Engine idle is high, not adjusted properly. Hard starting engine. Raw fuel dumping out of carburetors. Had to replace carburetor jets, clean carburetors, install new gaskets with number 30 jets. Had to replace spark plug wires, which were deteriorated. So he's replacing all this stuff and it still doesn't work. But you're authorizing him, okay, try this and let's see, and try this and let's see.
Yeah.
Okay, I am not going to order him to pay for your dock space or endangerment. But I'll tell you what, I think he sustained his burden of proving that there were sufficient problems that the $2,181.84 that he paid you, he didn't get his money's worth on. He's done that through the videos from his outing on that day. He's done that through the statement by the other mechanic. And guy hasn't been able to go on the boat since then. It has nothing to do with the transom. So I'm going to order you to return the money. $2,181.84 verdict for the plaintiff.
The plaintiff gets the job done, doesn't collect everything he sued for, but certainly proves that your rebuild job and your repair job wasn't up to par. What's your reaction?
Well, it was a repair job, not a rebuild job, and it's a job I should have turned down. The boat was dangerous. That's why, if he hadn't driven 2 hours to me,
Working on a 30-year-old boat?
Well, the age of the boat wasn't the problem. The problem, there was plenty of 30-year-old boats that are fine. That boat that was very dangerous. You
couldn't say no. You should have said no.
I should have said no. Yeah,
okay.
It was a dangerous situation.
All right. This is the way to your paperwork around the corner there. All right, step in here. So, you satisfied with what you come out with?
Yeah, sort of. I think justice was served. She was fair. I didn't get to show the head where the spark plug was stripped out of it, but
what are you doing paying before you check out the repair job?
Too trustworthy.
Too trustworthy.
Yeah.
So you learned something. Still a big fan of the show, or even bigger now?
Yeah. No, I love the show.
Even bigger, right?
Yep.
Harvey.
Okay, Kurt, this case was built on circumstantial evidence. There was no one piece that was good enough, but there were enough pieces that when you look at it, it's more likely than not, and the scales were tipped, and that's why the verdict went the way it did.